everyone, I'm Leaf and welcome to my YouTube channel. And in today's video, I'll be taking some of my old art and redrawing it. I'm doing this as a part of Ohuhu's art competition that they're hosting for their 10th anniversary. I thought the prompt looked super cool and I've never actually redrawn any of my old art on this channel, so I thought it could be fun. And because it's their 10th anniversary, Ohuhu has kindly decided to give one of you guys your very own set of 200 alcohol markers. But I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. So without further ado, let's get drawing. Okay, to start off with, I just want to tell you guys, it was so hard to find a piece that I actually wanted to redraw for this video. One of the main rules in this art competition is that the drawing cannot be fan art. It has to be a redraw of a piece that was meaningful to you in your art journey, that involved your own original concepts or characters. And when I was younger, I did mostly fan art. Like, I had my own characters, but what I preferred to draw and what I put the most effort in was fan art. So me and my sister were just scrolling forever, just looking through my old art, trying to find something that spoke to me. I found a lot of pieces that I felt okay with redrawing, but it wasn't till I saw this one that I actually knew which piece I wanted to redraw. If you don't know, these 4 characters are the 4 main characters in my story, and I've had them since my art journey began. They have grown up with me and changed so much over the years, so I thought it could be cool to redraw this piece because it would show just how much their designs have changed. Especially in the past couple of years, I worked really hard redesigning all of them. But as you can see in the background, I didn't just draw those 4. I added 3 more characters because since I drew this piece in 2022, I have added 3 more characters to the main group, so I wanted to add them as well. This drawing was so incredibly fun to sketch out, just trying to figure out how to Jenga all of these 7 characters on top of each other. The original drawing I did with a base from Pinterest, but that base only had 4 characters, so I had to figure out how to add 3 more. Originally, I wanted to keep Lauren on the bottom still because she is the main character, so I thought it was fitting for her to be on the bottom of the stack holding everyone else up. But that left me with a huge problem of where to put Asher. Asher is the most distant from all of the other characters in the group. He doesn't get along with most of them, so I figured he probably would not want to be in one of the middle positions. So instead, I put him on the bottom. He is also the strongest of the group, so I thought it fit. The other 2 characters I added were Ty and Himi, and I just put them in the middle. Himi is literally doing nothing to help hold up the stack. She's just sitting there chilling, and I just think that's kind of funny. One other major change I have is that Aurora is now floating. She's just ominously floating there at the top. I don't know if this makes her technically part of the stack anymore, but I make the rules and I think she still counts. And after I got all their base positions done, I started working on details. And I took this opportunity to try and figure out Asher's design for the 3rd time on this channel. I've only drawn him twice before, and I drew him with 2 different outfits, and I'm continuing that trend by drawing him in a 3rd different outfit this time. One of these days I will finally have a final design for Asher, but today is not that day, unless this becomes his final design. Which it might. I am honestly really happy with the way his outfit came out, but if you have any suggestions for him, I'd love to hear them down in the comments below. What I ended up going with was, I really liked how in the first time I drew him, he was shirtless. I think it matches his character to be like, you know, real warriors don't fight with armor, they just raw dog it, I guess. Like, if you're a real warrior, then you're not gonna get hit, so you don't need armor anyway, type of thing. And naturally, because of this mentality, I gave him a couple scars on his stomach because there's no way this man didn't get hit at least a couple times. But next up in the stack, we have our main character, Lauren. And I wanted her to be looking a little bit angry at Asher because Asher didn't turn off his fire hair and she doesn't want to get burnt. But Asher doesn't want to turn off his fire hair because he doesn't want to look bald. Honestly, they probably should not have let Asher be the bottom of the stack. It's probably a safety hazard for all of them. I mean, I imagine if one of them catches on fire, it won't take long before the whole stack is sizzling. Anyway, on an unrelated note, I want to apologize for the voiceover in today's video because it's pretty late right now and I just had a whole bunch of caffeine. So I'm in a weird state of being completely tired and also super hyper. So let's just say my mental state is very corrupted. So I don't know if this video is going to be the exact same vibe as some of my other videos, but I hope it's still entertaining for all of you. Anyway, after I finished up drawing Lauren, I started working on Hezi, who is the next character in the stack. And I don't know if you guys remember, but in my last video, I said it is a complete 50-50 gamble if I get Hezi's face right, or whether or not I think the character looks like Hezekiah at all. And I have to say, in this video, we busted, okay? I don't think this looks like Hezi. Something about him is not right. I don't know if you guys can tell me what it is, but I don't see Hezekiah in this man. I see like a random guy, so I don't know, maybe we'll have better luck next time. I decided to put Hezekiah in the spot because I thought he would serve as a great transition between Lauren and Asher and the rest of my characters, because I feel like Hezekiah would get along with the most of my main characters, so it was fitting that he would be in the spot that was touched by the most other characters. Alright, the next highest character in stack is Ty, who has only been on this channel once before, but he is still one of my main characters. Him and Hemi, I really need to draw more often. They're not the most neglected of my characters, but I feel like I think about them more than I actually draw them. So there's a whole lot less art of them than the main four y'all see all the time. And I don't know what, but usually I don't have a hard time drawing Ty, but just like Hezi, I think this face looks nothing like Ty, and I really don't know what it is. I think I was having a little bit of an art block day when doing the cleanup sketch for this drawing, so that could have been it, but I went in and changed it about 20 times. So anytime you see Ty's face in this video, just know that is not the final time that I changed Ty's face. But other than his face, I really didn't have too much of a hard time drawing him. Unlike Hemi, I have a pretty solid idea of what I want his final outfit to be, and his pose wasn't that hard. I just had his legs sticking out to help counterbalance his weight since he's leaning back quite a lot to let Hemi sit on his lap. And speaking of Hemi, she is the next character in the stack. And once again, I didn't struggle much with her pose, but I struggled a whole lot with her face. But this time it was because it's in this upward looking angle, because I wanted her to just be sitting there and watching Shadow reach up for Aurora's hand. Originally, I had her hand supposed to be on Ty's shoulder, but while I was doing this detailed sketch, I realized if her hand was there, it would be totally crushed by Shadow's knee. So I moved it to be sitting on top of Ty's hand so that she's at least kind of helping hold Shadow down. And by some miracle, I didn't struggle with Shadow's face at all, even though he's basically in the same angle that Hemi is in. I must have gotten a divine revelation or something. Anyway, for his pose, I wanted him to be longingly reaching up for Aurora's hand because Aurora is using her anti-gravity magic, and I imagine he's desperately trying to make sure she doesn't float away into the atmosphere. Let's just say she's probably not the most practiced at it yet, although she seems to be very chill about her situation. I wanted Aurora's pose to be almost angelic at the top of the tower here, and so I let her be the only character who kept her cape. If I let every character keep their cloaks, then this stack would look less like a group of guys and more like the laundry pile in my bathroom right now. And that just wasn't what I was going for. I also let her keep her cape because it is a huge part of her character design, and also I just love the way the silhouette looks with the cloak contrasting her massive armor piece on her shoulder. Aurora may not be the main character in my group of characters, but she certainly is the main character of this tower. She is just taking up so much more space than anyone else. But after I finished the sketch for all of my characters, it was finally time to color it. And this is where the biggest rule of this competition comes in. Surprise! You're not allowed to do digital art for this competition. other than sketching like I did earlier. So for my coloring, I used Ohuhu's 216 set of alcohol markers, which are conveniently the same exact markers Ohuhu is willing to give to one of you guys. So before I get more into my coloring process, I'm gonna tell you how to enter into my giveaway. The rules are simple. All you have to do is like this video, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Ohuhu's website, and leave a comment down below saying what the first piece you would color with these markers would be. I will be picking a winner 7 days from when this video releases, so make sure you get your comments in fast. And while you're commenting down there already, make sure to put in the secret message. If you don't know, I hide secret messages in all of my videos to see who's really paying attention. And lucky for you guys, it's right after the giveaway instructions, so I'm sure most of you are gonna hear this. And the emoji to put in your comment in this video is a clock emoji, because today's video is all about redrawing our old art and how our art has improved over the passage of time. So I feel like a clock emoji is very fitting. Okay, now that all of that's over with, let's get back to the actual drawing. And I thought it would be fun if I took this time while I'm coloring all my characters to talk about some of the differences between their designs from 2022 and how I have designed them now. The best drawing I could find of Asher is this one, and it shows off what his outfit used to look like pretty good. I had this bad habit when I was younger of almost all of my characters having the same outfit, just in different fonts, and I think that's pretty apparent in Asher. Asher is supposed to live in a pretty hot environment, but his outfit looks very warm. I did give him this white cloak though, because I figured white would reflect the sun better and make him not as hot, but I think that's the least of his worries when he's wearing a full tunic, pants, and these big fat boots. He also, instead of having orange hair and eyes, had blue hair and eyes, because I wanted him to be a fire character obviously, but I didn't want to go the stereotypical route of orange fire, so instead I went with the blue fire. But I have way too many characters whose accent colors are either blue or teal, so I changed it back to orange. I think it fits his color palette a lot better. You'll see that as a theme in a lot of my old designs. A lot of my characters used to have blue as an accent color, but I've tried to diversify their palettes a little bit to make them a little bit more different from each other. I also have just started giving Asher a bone motif in his outfits, because I feel like the area he would come from would have a whole lot of massive skeletons that they use for architecture as well as weapons. So I thought it was fitting if he also had a couple bone decorations on his actual outfit. Alright, next up we have Lauren, and compared to some of my other characters, she really hasn't changed that much since 2022. The biggest change is probably the top of her outfit, including what used to be a hoodie and her t-shirt. Lauren's design has always been a struggle for me because I've always known who she was and what role she would play in my story, but I could never find an outfit for her that suited this role. So for the longest time, I kept her in her hoodie, even though it makes no sense because my world is a fantasy story and I don't think they would have the means to make modern clothing. It wasn't until I think last year where I finally sat down and really thought about how to redesign Lauren in a way that would make sense as a main character in my story. I wanted to keep her color palette mostly the same because it was just so iconic at that point, and I've had Lauren forever as a character, so I didn't want to change a major aspect of her. I came up with this tunic and chainmail combination with black underclothes, and I kept her big knight boots. And I really like this design. I think it suits her really well, and I think it fits in my story. And the best thing is, she still looks like Lauren. I think you could ask someone if these two people were the same character and they would be able to say yes. But next up we have Hezi, who has gotten one of the biggest glow-ups out of all my characters. And looking at his old design, the first thing that sticks out to me was he used to be white. My boy Hezekiah used to be so pale. I drew his skin a little bit darker in this old design, but let me tell you, that man was practically a ghost. So one of the first things I changed over the years was I slowly made him darker and darker every time I drew him until we've gotten to this point, which I think I found the perfect skin tone for Hezekiah. Another trend in my old art is, other than Asher, all of my main characters used to be completely white, and over the years I've started trying to give my characters different skin tones to make them all look more unique from each other, and I think that is the most prominent with Hezekiah. Now he has a very unique skin tone. It's almost completely just a saturated orange, but I think the warmth of it matches his outfit really well. And on a side note, I was so surprised when this marker set had his skin color, because out of all of my main characters, it is definitely the hardest to find a color of marker that works with his skin, since it's such a unique shade of orange. But this set literally had the perfect color, and I was super happy about that. But his skin tone wasn't the only thing I've changed over the years. I have completely redone his entire outfit. His old outfit was very princely with this tunic and cape combo, along with a one-shoulder pauldron, which I gave almost all of my characters for some reason. But after thinking more of Hezy's story, I thought this kind of fancier outfit did not match at all. So I've tried to give him more of a plain outfit. I know his is still pretty fancy, but I wanted it to look a lot more like he could actually travel in his clothes, and that he has been traveling in his clothes. He still has a couple fancier elements, but I don't think it's too much. And also, his outfit looks almost exactly like Asher's old outfit, and I once again do not think this outfit is suitable for any sort of desert environment. So I've tried to give him some more lighter weight clothes so that he's not just frying himself in the heat. When designing characters now, I try a lot harder to think about the environments they'd be in and the world they grew up in. So in a lot of my newer designs, I try to incorporate elements like that. And I recommend, if you're designing your characters, to also think about where they're actually going to be, because where you grow up and what your environment is impacts how you dress a whole lot. So it's really good to think about that when designing your characters. But now I am coloring in Ty, and his old design was pretty simple. It was just a suit of armor basically, because Ty is a knight. But I've changed his story a little bit in that he still was a knight. But when we meet him in the story, he's primarily Himi's knight, because Himi's a princess. So instead of doing a full set of plate armor, which I think would be very inconvenient to just walk around in all the time, I've tried to give him more of a tunic with a couple of armor pieces around. And another huge change, maybe not huge, but huge to me, is literally he's always had this turquoise gradient in his hair, because he's an underwater character, like he has water magic stuff, and I thought that made him look more aquatic, but it just fell into the same trap of literally every one of my characters having this teal color as an accent. So recently I've just dropped it all together and have started just making him straight blonde. I can still totally see him with this teal gradient in his hair. I just don't draw it most of the time. The only design feature I really kept of him is his scarf, because Himi made it for him, so he has to keep his scarf. And next up we have Shadow, whose design has changed a lot more than I think it has in my head. One of my favorite aspects of his old design is the fact that he's just straight up wearing a pair of teal Converse. Once again, that teal color coming and infecting all of my designs. I fell into this trap of, I wanted my characters to be fantasy characters, but I only knew how to draw like one fantasy outfit. So anytime I wanted to make my characters look a little bit different. I always ended up giving them more modern clothing because I didn't know how to give them fantasy clothing that looked different from the other fantasy clothing I knew how to draw. So that's how we end up with Shadow having teal Converse and Lauren having a purple and teal hoodie. For a while, I justified it as every region in my world has a different style of clothing, and it just so happens that the region Lauren and Shadow are from wear modern clothing, even though it's a middle of a fantasy world. I don't think that concept is impossible, and I think you can make that work in your story, but I was just using it as an excuse and not as a real world building tactic. Like, I wasn't committing to that at all. If you really want one of your areas in your fantasy world to be more modern, then that's okay, but everything about them has to be modern. And for me, the only two things were the shoes and the hoodie, and those were just aspects that I didn't know how to translate into a fantasy world, so I tried to use that as an excuse, but it didn't work. So please don't do that. Really try to think of everything in your designs as having a purpose and having a reason behind them, and those two things just did not have a purpose at all. So that's why when redesigning them, those were the first aspects I decided had to go. Alright, next up we have Aurora, and her design has changed quite a bit, but I feel like it gives off the same vibes as her original outfit. I've always liked keeping her with this dark, cool toned palette with gold accents, and that's what her design still has today. But for the gold, instead of keeping it a pure gold color like some of my other characters have, I give her more of a coppery gold color, because she has lightning magic, and I feel like copper would help her conduct her electricity pretty well. I know gold also is a pretty good conductor, but copper is the more stereotypical one, so that's why I like her accents to lean a little bit more orange instead of yellow. And you will also notice that Aurora was not innocent, and she was also under the teal curse. So I've changed her hair color from being blue to having a yellow gradient. I think this just looks so much better with the rest of her character and help conveys the lightning aspect of her a lot better. I still have no idea why my original design had her with this blue color. The only explanation I can think of is that I was a literal addict and had to give it to every single character I owned. The biggest change in her design from her old one is now she has armor on her right arm. I gave her this cool arm because she is an archer, and where she comes from, it's more steampunky, so I gave her this technological arm to help her shoot her arrows with more power. And I also gave her this because her original design has two asymmetrical sleeves. In her old design, it was she had one sleeve and she didn't have the other sleeve, and I also kept that for a very long time, but I feel like it just makes more sense with her more proper character for her to have both sleeves, except one of them is covered by her arm, which helps her with her bow and arrow. Also, I want to apologize. People just started doing yard work outside my window, so I'm sorry if there's any background noise. Luckily, we're almost to the end of the video because now we're on our final character, who is Himi. Himi has changed quite a bit from her original design. Like I said earlier, Himi is a princess, and I leaned very heavily into that princess aspect for her older designs, but more recently I like leaning more into a less formal version of Himi since she is traveling with the rest of my main characters. I want to give her an outfit that is more suitable for travel, that still looks very regal, and I have not yet sat down to actually design an outfit for her, so the one in this video is basically just a filler outfit. I still really need to nail down her design, but even though I have yet to have an actual design for her, she still has changed quite a bit so far. One of the biggest things I changed about her is she now has red hair instead of blonde. I feel like the red hair just suits her a lot better and makes her look more unique since blonde is a very common color for a princess's hair color. I also feel like the red hair contrasts really nice with the blue colors that I want to be in her outfit. I also switched up the spot where her power stone is in. Originally, it was in this emblem on her chest, but I moved it to be embedded in her forehead to look almost like a circlet. But after coloring in all of my characters, I wanted to make this special background for them to hang them up on my wall almost like a banner, and I decided on this nice blue color because I felt like it wouldn't distract too much from their overall designs. When you have 7 characters in one drawing, it's super hard to find a neutral color that won't clash with at least one of them, but I think this works. Also, my paper was not long enough. It was 2 feet long, but that was still not enough for me. So I cut out these half circles and put them at each end of the banner, and then rounded the corners of the rectangle to make this cool looking shape. And to hide the seam, I covered it with just a piece of paper I painted gold with one of my gold paint pens. And I also added this nice gold border along the entire banner to make it look a little bit more interesting. And I used just some straight double-sided tape to stick my characters on top. And with all of it put together, it looks like this. I think it turned out so cool. And it's just so fun to have a banner that has all of my main characters on it hanging on my wall in my room right now. And for like my 3rd marker drawing ever, I think it turned out pretty good. There's a couple spots that ended up a little messy, and I'm not the biggest fan of the background, but I can't help it. I still really like it. I think the characters came out so good, and this was such a fun challenge. So if you're interested, the art competition is open to everyone. So if you would like to participate, you totally should. All you have to do is just redraw your artwork with traditional art supplies. And don't forget to join in the giveaway. It's free to enter, and you might win yourself a set of 200 markers. And with that, everyone, the yard work outside is getting louder and louder, and I don't think I can voice over much longer. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I will not be posting a video next week because I will be on a trip. So I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.